Unlike the Atlanta Hawks, who I talked about earlier, the Sacramento Kings have a million young players, whereas the Hawks only had like 3 to really look at in terms of the future of their team. Sacramento has a lot of them. They have Bogdan Bogdanovic, Willie Cauley-Stein, De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Frank Mason, Justin Jackson, Skal Labissiere, Malachi Richardson, Georgios Papagiannis. There are many names for Sacramento. I think the first thing that the Kings would want is if one of these guys can develop into a big-time player. I don't see that happening with any of these guys. I think they're going to have to hit a home run in the upcoming draft to get that player. But it doesn't mean that none of these guys are valuable, and it doesn't mean that they can't be mainstays of a rebuild here. First things first, just give them credit for getting past the DeMarcus Cousins era and having a team full of more likable guys. I mean, De'Aaron Fox, his character is always one thing that scouts praised, so that's good. And it seems like they've got at least a good locker room culture going on, so that's good. Now, as far as the stuff on the floor, number one, if I can just talk about Dave Yeager's coaching before I dive into some of the particular players, I think he's used Zach Randolph way too much. I think he hasn't used George Hill enough. Randolph has the highest usage on the team, and I don't really see why, because he's going to do his normal post-ups and face-up game and mid-range jumpers, and I just don't see why you would want to give Randolph that much of the offense when you could have those extra shot attempts and extra possessions go to Buddy Hield and De'Aaron Fox and Bogdanovic. I mean, Randolph is leading the team in usage. He's leading the team in field goal attempts. He's started 31 games, and I just don't really agree with it. And then on the flip side, George Hill. I mean, if you look at George Hill's usage compared to the guys on this team who play a lot of minutes, he's really down there. I mean, there is Randolph, Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox, Willie Cauley-Stein, and Bogdanovic all have higher usage rates than George Hill. And, I mean, I understand that he's never going to be a guy who puts up like 16 points and 6 assists, but I mean, he's always been the guy who could put up 13, 14, and like 4 to 5 assists a game, you know what I mean? So I think he should just have more responsibility, but if we get into the players themselves, we'll start with De'Aaron Fox, because I think he's kind of the central piece of this whole thing. The thing with Fox is that he can't shoot, and he doesn't seem like he'll be a huge playmaker in the NBA. Now, that doesn't mean he can't be a valuable player. And when I look at him, I actually see kind of like Eric Bledsoe, because with Fox, you have a really good athlete who definitely has an eye for getting his teammates the ball, although he's not as gifted of a playmaker as like someone who's going to put up double-digit assists continuously. But if he can be someone who puts up, we'll say, 5 to 6.5 assists a game, a solid 16, 17 points, good pick-and-roll player, good athlete, very good defender, because I think that could be his real shtick in the NBA, and then just like being pretty good at attacking inside, then I think that's what you'd ask for out of De'Aaron Fox. Now, on the flip side, maybe his lack of a jump shot could never be a thing, and maybe he'll just struggle at finishing from pretty much everywhere, because the only place that De'Aaron Fox really has it right now is at the basket, which is 63%. Everywhere else, I mean, long twos, floaters, mid-range, threes, it's all pretty rough for him right now. And he's only getting to the free throw line for 2 shots a game, so we're just going to have to see with De'Aaron. I think Zach Randolph simply not being there and having a more spread floor could benefit De'Aaron quite a lot. Now if we get to Willie Cauley-Stein, I mean, defensively, he doesn't make Sacramento that much better, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I think he's got to be that type of a player if he wants to really become something, because if we're looking at it from an offensive standpoint, I mean, I don't picture him ever being a real post-up player. He's actually been not bad from mid-range this season, especially long twos. He's been attempting a little over 1 a game, and he's actually making them, so that could be a good sign, but I don't think he's ever going to be like a a go-to mid-range pick-and-pop player. I don't think his three-pointer's ever going to be a thing, and it doesn't really need to be either to be nice to him. So he's got to be a defender, an athlete. One fear I have is that he might never be a good rebounder. 6 boards a game for 26 minutes. If we go to his rebound percentages, he's basically like a mid-tier rebounder among centers who play about 26 minutes a game plus. His offensive rebound percentage, his defensive rebound percentage, it's all like, you look at all the top guys like Drummond, Embiid, Whiteside, then you even get to guys who might be a little lower like Jokic, and then you go down even a little bit more, and then you're looking at Willie Cauley-Stein, who's in the same realm as like Al Horford when it comes to rebounding percentages. So he's probably going to want to clean that stuff up. I'm concerned about Stein. I feel like he has been disappointing defensively overall, given that when he was drafted, the thing with him was that he was going to be this like great multi-position defender who could switch out onto perimeter guys, and I don't know. I think if Sacramento has an opportunity to draft a Marvin Bagley or a DeAndre Ayton or even Mohamed Bamba in this upcoming draft, they should probably jump on it. But maybe he could be better as this season goes. Who knows? Now let's get to Buddy Hield. I think Buddy Hield might be the one suffering the most from Zach Randolph shooting 13 times a game on this team. I mean, if I was Sacramento, I would want Buddy Hield just in more offensive sets than I would want Zach Randolph post-ups, face-ups, all that stuff. Because Hield, to me, is probably the guy with the most potential on this roster right now in terms of being a scorer. Because when you're as good of a shooter as he is, and when you are as good at finishing around the basket as Buddy Hield is, as he finishes 66% of his shots at the rim, you can do a lot of stuff. And I feel like either Jaeger just sees him as this guy who can be a part of a team, or I don't know. I feel like his usage should be higher. I feel like he should be probably taking the most shots on this team, because he showed a real ability once they acquired him of creating his own shots. You know, there are times when he'll have step backs, there are times when he'll have pull-up jumpers, and that's the type of stuff that's going to allow you to be a big-time scorer. So I figure you're going to be bad anyway. You might as well see if he's got it, you know? Now, is there a reason to believe he doesn't have it? Sure. I mean, he's not that good outside of finishing at the basket or finishing at the three-point line, at least for this season. I mean, Hield, he's, you know, well, I mean, he's not bad on long twos, but I mean, 35% from 10 to 16 and then 29% from 3 to 10 feet. So he's definitely got room to improve, and he only shoots like 1 free throw a game. So I'm not acting like Buddy Hield's got some 25-point potential, but I'm saying among the guys that are on this team right now, who the hell would you rather have shooting the ball the most than Buddy Hield, you know? I think for Hield to become that big scorer, it would have to be, I think he'd have to become great at floaters, because he's not like a super athlete. He's not bad, but he's not great. And he would have to get to the line more often, which, given that he's kind of a bigger dude at 214 pounds, I could see him being able to draw contact more as he gets older. So we'll have to see on that one. Justin Jackson, I think with him it's just, can he make shots, you know? I don't know how good of a creator he's ever going to be, but when you look at 6'8", small forward, and I think he can play power forward as well, and the way that his three-pointer really stepped up in college, that can be a player who can do some things for you, but if he's not going to make shots, then I don't really know what he's going to do for you. If we can talk about Bogdan for a bit, my fear with him is that he's not too far away from how good he's going to be in the NBA, like at his best, given that he's 25 years old. But, again, with post-up players being the highest usage guys not on the team, perhaps he could be able to take more threes, have more opportunities in pick and rolls, because Bogdanovich seems like someone who could put up a solid 15 points and shoot well from three and get you maybe 4 to 5 assists a game. Solid offensive player who can be maybe a sixth man or maybe the third scorer or something, if you will. I like Bogdanovich. And then to round this thing out, I think we'll talk about Labissiere. I definitely think Scal can do some things. I think he's got potential as an offensive rebounder. I think he's got some potential as an athlete in transition. The question with him is, what sort of offensive skills is he going to develop outside of just finishing at the rim? Is he going to be a really good post-up player? Is he going to be a three-point shooter? Is he going to develop the handle? I think that's the big question with Scal. But I don't see him ever becoming someone that you'd be comfortable playing like over 30 minutes a game. I think he just has too many things he has to improve on. Two more guys. Malachi Richardson, wake me up if he starts making three-pointers, and then Papagiannis. I feel like I can't make an actual opinion on the guy because he was only played in 30 NBA games. I think he could become something as a rebounder and someone who finishes around the basket. It might not be for the Sacramento team, given that there's Willie Cauley-Stein and Skal Labissiere and Zach Randolph in front of him. So that's going to do it. Basically, with the Kings, there's a lot of young guys here. I don't really see a star coming out of any of them. Well, I'll give it to De'Aaron Fox. I think he can get into that level. But similar to what I said with the Atlanta Hawks earlier, they're going to have to hit a home run in the draft. If you can get one of these big-time players, I think it puts everything else into place with this team. And then from there, you can do your thing.